if you're here, you're probably having weird FPS drops or stutters in Fortnite. Now, the first 5 minutes of this video will go over how to fix this if you just tried about everything else that there is. And the rest of the video will cover what I tried, what didn't work, videos, suggestions, all of that jazz. So if you don't want to watch that, you don't have to watch that. So let's just get right into it. A lot of players have been having issues and Epic just hasn't been able to fix it. We need a patch, and here's just a ton of people that have had the issues. The footage in the background is what has been happening to my game ever since Winterfest started. Now luckily I made it to Champs just before Winterfest really started, but ever since then I've had frame drops all the way down to 12 while farming a rock. Now that's like playing on a Switch, nothing against Switch players, but that's just insanely hard to play on. So the people that play on that all the time, you're cracked, just out of your mind. Now I went through a lot of optimization things, tested out GTX 360s, 380s, Windows 10, because you know, Windows 7 here, and I rolled the GPU drivers back, nothing fixed it. So here's a preface. You'll need about 30 minutes and either an alt account, a friend to log in to the Epic launcher on your computer, or you just need to create a second Epic account to really do this. Okay, let's get to the actual solution. So I'm going to do this step by steps, and I didn't record this whenever I did it, and I don't want to do it again because my game hasn't been playable for like 4 weeks, and I don't want to make it where I can't play it again. So I'm just using on-screen images, and hopefully this makes sense. So step 1, obviously you're logged in, everything on your main account. Go to the settings, enable DirectX 12, turn your latency stats on, have the boost plus on, and if you have a Ryzen 7 or anything in the Ryzens or the i7s, i9s, you can leave your multi-core stuff fine because it's probably where it should be using the multi-core, but for me I set it to use multi-core, I applied it, and then I set it back to use one core. Now the reason why I did that is because I'm on an AMD FX 8350. It's a 2012 CPU, and that's just a little bit different. So I turned show latency flash on, so like anytime I click left click there's a little square flash, and I turned show latency stats on as well, and the show latency stats is under the HUD setting, but the show latency flash, that is under the Dx12 settings once you're on Dx12. Now apply these and you'll be greeted with the message that says restart the game. Step number 2, after relaunching the game, either load into creative or load into like a pub match, arena match, whatever. Step 3, set the graphics back to performance mode and close the game. Now obviously you'll be greeted with the restart to apply the settings and all of that, so just close the game. Step 4, sign out of the Epic Game Launcher. And this is the part where you either sign in with your alt account, you have a friend sign in, or you make a new alt account, sign in, but just do that. Step 5, play again on the newly signed in account. So whatever account you just like signed into on the Epic Games Launcher, launch Fortnite with it and start. Now if it's a brand new account, you'll probably have to wait through the season intro stuff, do all that jazz. But once you do that, make sure, if you're in the lobby, you could do this really quickly, but just left click, make sure the white square is showing. And then if you want to triple check it, play a game or two, just pubs, whatever, creative, and whenever you load into an actual match, you should see the latency debug stats at the top, and when you click you should see the little white square. Step number 6, this is where you want to log back into your main account on the Epic Games Launcher. So once you do this, launch the game. Step number 7, in the lobby, as long as you left click with a mouse, the latency marker should show up. This is good. So step 7 is really similar to step 5. So marker shows up, good. So again, you can log into creative, battle labs, custom lobby, whatever you do, and just test it out. Make sure that performance mode is still selected in settings. So you can go to your settings, check, make sure that performance mode is still selected. And as long as you're in a game lobby or in a game and you can see that, you know, latency stats are up, this should fix most of your stutters. And if this works, then you should be ready to go. Now, step 8 is basically what I just said, but also just like if you go to battle labs, go to an area where you notice a lot of your stutters would happen. So some of the clips you saw in the background, and they'll be playing right now, these are micro stutters, and if you're not paying attention like while watching them, you're gonna miss them. But I promise, if you're playing while having these issues, you can feel them. And if you've had stutters, you can just feel the added input delay, or sometimes it feels like you're skipping frames, because what's happening is when the CPU stutters, it's basically missing the information, so you're dropping frames. So it looks like the GPU is the problem, but it's actually the CPU processing the frames because it dictates what goes to the GPU. Now that could be a little bit off, but that's the gist of it. Now, is this really Dx12 and Performance Mode, or did I just clickbait you and is this just Dx11? Well, kind of both, but it's not really clickbait, because I'll explain why. Well, Performance Mode is based on Dx11. So obviously, if I pull up game info with MSI Afterburner, like this user on Reddit said, it will indeed show Dx11. Well, the reason is because that's the core mode I'm using. That's the last mode I selected. So I would hope that the game is loading Dx11, because if not, then I just get the benefit of low meshes always being loaded because of the way that Dx12 works and all that, yada yada yada. Now, before I did the previous steps, my game was basically unplayable, and here's some clips of like my worst days. Before I did the previous steps, my game was basically unplayable. I was done with Fortnite as a whole. I was rewarming up on League of Legends. You know, we used to play with some pros in League, so I was like, alright, let's just jump back on that League grind. I can relearn it, I can still make some content for Fortnite, I can work on perfecting some of my creative maps, but you know, just kind of lay back on the Fortnite grind. But I couldn't, it didn't feel right. So after this fix, I have no stutters unless I hit 6+ hours on the game, and that's 6+ hours while recording. So that's, you know, take that into account, that these stutters were happening every few seconds compared to now like maybe every 6 hours. To me, that's a huge difference. That's good enough. You know, I could play 2 cash cups. So overall, huge difference. Now, having the latency debug stats and the latency markers visible while being on performance mode is what I'm talking about when I say Dx12 and performance mode on at the same time. If you, like, before you do this, if you go to your performance mode settings, there's not an option to have the latency markers on or show the, you know, the stats. Now you can turn show latency stats on in the HUD, like the HUD display, but they are not enabled unless you're on Dx12. Like, you cannot see them, but you can obviously see them in my video, in my gameplay, and that's just how it is. Let's talk about hardware. I currently run an AMD FX 8350, which I've referenced in other videos, a GTX 1070, and 24 gigs of RAM. Now I have old hardware, and as you can see in the clip playing, Epic customer support suggested initially that my issue was on Nvidia's side, which, you know, it's easy to blame outdated hardware and say that, well, it's just not updated for the current game, blah blah blah. But to me, it was really funny how, like, 2 days before Winterfest, the game was butter smooth, and then 2 days after Winterfest, like, the game's just super laggy. I can't do certain things, just a whole mess, you know. So to me, it's kind of odd. And now, like, there's no driver updates, anything, and now with this fix, my game is perfect. Now, Tayson, Raider464, and it's Jarian, and a lot of other people, I think Mini Epic Well, and others, you know, everybody is having FPS drops, stutters, and similar issues, and I can't guarantee this will work for you. But if someone who has a $5,000 computer is having issues, I would say the game probably needs a stability patch with using Unreal Engine 5. Now, it could be that just NVIDIA drivers haven't caught up yet. Now, let's talk about all the things I did try. Now, some of these are very obvious, and I don't know if I'm going to put in some of these Reddit comments as I'm going through these, because this is just kind of a list, so I might, and it's kind of boring. Or I'll just, like, throw gameplay behind this. We'll just see what post me decides to do. So I'll just go in order. So I tried to verify the game files, so that just, it did nothing. Like, so many times I tried that. Roll back GPU drivers. Since I'm on Windows 7, my last GPU update was 2021 in like September. So I rolled back to the one that was before that, and it kind of helped a little bit. It made it where it wasn't happening every 3 seconds. It made it happen like 5 or 6 times a game, which that was a big improvement. But it's like clearing my cache, you know, that didn't really do anything. Doing system restarts, I even tried doing system restore point resets, but that kind of didn't really do anything because I'd already rolled back the driver and using DDU and all of that, and it was just a big mess, really. So a lot of people, like on Reddit and Nvidia's like page, and even on Reddit for like GPU hardware and stuff, everybody was saying, oh, GPU's too old, or oh, it's because you're on Windows 7, upgrade to Windows 10, or, you know, Windows 11 is out. Now, I did play on several Windows 10 systems. You know, obviously my main computer is Windows 7, so I thought, this might be it. So my main still had the stutter issues. Played on a system with a 3080, still had issues. Played on a 3060 system, still had issues. Everyone said I needed to upgrade the computer and the issue wouldn't be there, but why would I drop 1,000 on a computer to play this game when somebody's dropped 5,000 and they're still having issues? Make it make sense. So, the last thing I was considering was dual booting my PC or setting up Fox OS, which is a gaming optimized version of Linux OS, and there was a bunch of stuff involved with that. Now, partitioning your hard drive's not super hard, that's like fairly easy. And dual booting, now what I didn't want to do was set up a partition, dual boot. I have to mess with using USB because all my ports are on the back of my computer. Didn't want to have to mess with that. I have a lot of stuff plugged in already. For me, man, I didn't want to play the game that bad, you know, it was having issues, and I was just gonna go play League of Legends and just, you know, play the stutters with my friends, go back to making memes full time, since, you know, making memes is what got me my first video that had 500,000 views anyway. Now, luckily, as I was working on this memes, my alt account, I changed it to the number. I was gonna like troll some people, you know, see if they ever texted it, but luckily I gave it one more try, and it worked. I actually noticed while I was playing with my friend, like, hey, why am I getting this latency marker when I'm on performance mode? This shouldn't be here. If you try this and it doesn't fix your stutters, it could be something else entirely causing your issue. And there's a lot of things that can be going on. You can talk to a tweaker if you want to. I've seen people from the esports team Power have issues with certain tweakers. So you just have to be really careful, because I'm not saying all, but some people just use a pre-made bat file that just like disables a ton of Windows services, and bam, you have like 500 frames. But you can't do anything else but play Fortnite, so just be careful. I'm not saying that everybody's like that, but just be careful. And as I was saying about Reddit, this user said this doesn't work. They're saying that you're still going to have issues. Well, here's side-by-side video. Now, do I still have issues? Yeah, after 6-7 hours. But you have one side that's basically unplayable, and then another side that's, you know, smooth as butter. It's silky smooth. I don't know what other people want. I don't know what other people's systems are, but the results are undeniable for me. And if you play at a higher FPS, like 240, 300, 400 all the time, then yeah, I would say looking at 144 FPS recorded through a 60 Hz capture card, because I will remind people, there's not really a capture card that will record in 144 Hz. The one that I have does not. It is maxed at 60 Hz. So that is why there is screen tears in a decent portion, especially if you pause any of my footage. That is why. And I know there's other players out there running similar setups, either using a new CPU with the same GPU, a CPU with a new GPU, or, you know, any kinds of those, or, you know, Ryzen users with different GPUs. So it's worth trying. It will make your game playable. I feel like everything is worth trying once. I hope this helped you. If it did, or you just enjoyed the video, can you drop a sub to the channel? Because my Twitter has now surpassed my YouTube, and I didn't really start using Twitter until like 2 months ago, like hardcore. And like, come on guys, we can't let Twitter beat YouTube.